So welcome to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be continuing the series of going through some big mock questions taken from some GCSE Maths higher exam papers. Now before we get started working through the questions, a little reminder that I will include a link to the questions in the description below, and I strongly recommend you have a attempt at these questions just so you can see what your prior knowledge and how well you would have tackled these questions without any help. I'll also include a link to the 162 Maths contents page, which includes links to all the GCSE lessons that go over virtually every single topic, along with GCSE Maths audits and walkthroughs through all the past papers. So let's get started on question 1. So question 1 said here is a term to term rule for the sequence, and our rule is double the previous term and add 3. The first 3 terms of the sequence is a plus 1, 2a plus 5 is the second, and 4a plus 13 is the third. And it says show that the sum of the first 4 terms is a multiple of 3. Now with this question, what we need to do is we need to find what the fourth term is first, and we do that by using this rule where the previous term is 4a plus 13. So if I start with doubling the previous term, that's going to be 2 lots of 4a plus 13, and then I add 3. Now expanding the brackets, what I end up with is 8a plus 26 plus 3, which gives me a fourth term of 8a plus 29. So that there is my fourth term. So the next thing that's for me to then do is to first then find what the sum is going to be. Well, the sum of the first 4 terms is where I add these 4 expressions together. So we've got a plus 1 plus 2a plus 5 plus 4a plus 13 and 8a plus 29. Then collecting the like terms, what do I end up with? Well, I end up with 15a plus 48, in which then I can factorize this expression, in which I can take a 3 out, so I end up with 3 lots of 5a plus 16. So from this, what we could then say something along the lines of that, as we've got a factor of 3, therefore the term, or the sum of the terms I should say, the first 4 terms will be a multiple of 3. So something along those lines would be absolutely fine for the 3 marks. Moving on to question 2, it says a straight line passes through 314 and 1232. Work out the equation of the line. So for this, what we need to spot, and there's a couple of ways in which you can do this. You can either find the gradient between the 2 points, then substitute that for m, and then use either y minus y1 or equals mx plus mx minus x1, or you could use y equals mx plus c. Now I found that one of the most easiest ways of doing this is by simply substituting these coordinates. So this value here is my x, this is my y, and this is another value of x, and this is another value of y. Now if I substitute those numbers in, so if I just call this coordinate 1 and this coordinate 2, then coordinate 1 substituting x equals 3 and y equals 14 is going to give me 3m plus c equals 14, and for coordinate 2 I'm going to get 12m plus c equals 32. Now as you can see, what we've got now is a set of simultaneous equations where I want to find out what m and c are. Now typically most students find that they prefer the bigger equation at the top, so if I just rewrite this, I end up with this. And as you can see, I've got the same number of c's, they're both the same sign, so I take them away. So 12m take away 3m is 9m, the c's cancel out, and 32 take away 14 gives me an answer of 18, which leaves me with an m value of 2. Then what I then need to do is find out what c is. So then using 3m plus c equals 14, I know that m equals 2, so I've got 3 lots of 2 plus c equals 14, so that's c plus 6 equals 14, so c is going to give me an answer of 8. So there I've got my m and c values, so therefore the equation is going to be y equals 2x plus 8. Moving on to question 3, it says here is some information about the members of a basketball club, on which we've got the number of members and their average height. And the question is asking us to work out the mean height of all 50 members of the club. Give your answer as a decimal. So for this, what we need to do is work out the total height of the 50 players. And how do we do that? Well, we just simply multiply the frequency by the mean. So here I'm going to do 30 times 1.6, which is 48. And then I'm going to do 20 times 2.05, which gives me an answer of 41. Then adding those totals up, I get an answer of 89. So then the mean height is going to be the total height, which is 89, divided by the total number of members, which is 50. And I type that into my calculator, and it gives me an answer as a decimal of 1.78, which seems a relatively standard answer. Moving on to question 4, it says use a compass and a ruler, and it says the scale diagram shows port P and lighthouse Q, and it says that a ship is less than 14 kilometers from P and closer to Q than P. Label the region R where the ship can be, or could be I should say, and it says show all your construction lines. Now for me to do this accurately on the screen, it's going to be very complicated because I don't have access to a ruler online. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through how we actually do this. Now for this, what we need to do first is looking at the two parameters. So less than 14 kilometers, what we need to do is, and we know that the scale is 1 centimeter represents 2 kilometers. So what we need to do is draw a circle with center P with a radius of 7 centimeters. And so what that should generally look like, and again mine's not going to be accurate at all, let's just use, if I just draw what I believe is a circle, let's say there, and I'm just going to have to make that a little bit bigger. So let's say that just for argument's sake, that this circle here with a center P is 7 centimeters. So this radius here is 7 centimeters. Now the next thing to say whether it's closer now, basically the boat needs to be inside that circle. So boat needs to be is inside this circle. So what's then, in terms of closer to P, closer to Q than P, is what we need to do here is a perpendicular bisector. Between the 2 points. Now here I've already got an arc that's more than halfway. So then what I can then do is, if I draw another arc, don't do that. And this gives me another circle, which it does. And what I then want to do is put the center of that circle where Q is, which comes out to be, I'd say roughly at a guess there. So in terms of the instructions, I'm not sure why the instructions have been shifted, but they have. So here, what we then, if I just write down the instructions of what we need to do here. So for number 1, draw a circle from P with radius 7 centimeters. Then 2, draw a circle from Q with radius 7 centimeters. Then step 3 is then draw a straight line through the intersection points of the two circles And then what we want is, so for example, here are my two intersection points. So here's one, here's another. And what I'm going to do is with a ruler or straight edge, I'm going to draw a straight line through those points. There we go. And so it needs to be closer to Q than P. So that means it's going to be this region here. Now yours might look completely different to mine because obviously I've not measured my circles accurately. So what you should have is something that looks like this. And all that we need to do is just shade in this region here and label it R. So again, hopefully yours will be a lot more accurate than mine. And again, this radius here is 7 centimeters. This radius here is 7 centimeters. It needs to be inside this circle and on the left, or I should say on the right of the line. And there we go. So then moving on to our next question, let's just zoom in so we can see it on the screen a little bit clearer. It says the bag contains discs, and it says the trial is a disc is chosen at random from a bag, the colour of the disc is noted, the disc is put back in the bag. The trial is carried out 100 times. The table shows the relative frequency of the blue disc after every 25 trials. And for part A, it says for every trial from the 26th to the 50th, how many times did the blue disc is chosen? So for this, what we need to do is first of all work out the first 25, and we do that by doing 25 multiplied by 0.4, which gives us an answer of 10. Then for the first 50, it's going to be 50 multiplied by 0.36, which gives me an answer of 18. And then what we then need to do is just work out the difference. So the difference is going to be 18 minus 10, which gives me an answer of 8. Moving on to the next one, it says there are a total of 1,000 discs in the bag. Work out the best estimate for the number of blue discs in the bag. So for this, to get the most accurate relative frequency, we need to use the most number of trials. So the most number of trials was 100. So the relative frequency we're going to use is 0.32. So for this, all we then need to do is just multiply the number of trials by the relative frequency, which is 0.32, and that gives us an answer of 320. Moving on to question 6, it says that 190 people were asked how much they spent on takeaways in 1 month. The table shows the information about the results. How many people spent more than £20? Now for this, it's really important that you recognise that it does say cumulative frequency. So less than 10 was 16, less than 20 was 64, which includes the 16. So again, although the most common answer here would be 64, 64 actually represents the number of takeaways less than £20. So if the total number of takeaways is 190, how many people spent more than £20 is going to be 190 minus 64, which gives me an answer of 126. And then finally, for the last part, it says that Farad draws a cumulative frequency curve to represent the results. And it says to give 2 criticisms of the graph. So if I just zoom out so we can actually see the cumulative frequency graph that Farad's drawn. So one of the criticisms you should be able to spot is the fact that the cumulative frequency should stop at 190 because that's how many people were asked. So our first criticism is that the curve at 50 should be at 190, not 200. So something along those lines, that the graph should stop at 190, not 200. And also our second criticism is when you're doing a cumulative frequency, we don't have frequency going up. So here our y-axis is labelled incorrectly, and you could say something along that should be cumulative frequency, not just the frequency. So something along those lines would be absolutely fine for the 4 marks.